Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of our Justice and Peace's guest speaker series. As we've been talking to paralegal and lawyer bencher candidates about the upcoming election. As always, the views and opinions are of the candidates alone. They don't reflect me, Justice and Peace's Charles College, or any other education institution or organization I'm affiliated with. Continuing on our series this evening, we have Winfield joining us. So first of all, Winfield, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with me. And then perhaps we can get started. You can tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I'm 79 years old. I've been a lawyer since I was, I think I was 47 when I was called. And before that, I was a truck driver, believe it or not, for 18 years. And why I decided to run for the role of bencher has much to do with my age and the fact that I observed through my career and my times in the at Osgood when I noticed that a lot of elderly or older gentlemen, lawyers, spent a lot of time in the Law Society, and I just thought it was the natural thing to do. I really don't have any burning issues that I'm trying to chase down. My relationship with the Law Society has almost always been very good, and I'd like to see that perpetuated. There are some things that I really don't like, and the things that I don't like most are the fact that you can't get any information from them. They're very hunkered down. You can't find out how much money they're spending on what. You can't find out anybody's salary. You can't find out anybody's credibility or credentials for the work that they're doing. For example, I had a complaint lodged against me by a judge that said that I had provided ineffective assistance to a gentleman, ineffective assistance as counsel after 8 days of a trial. And the investigator that was investigating the complaint would not reveal his credentials. And I tried to get him to tell me, how are you qualified to investigate and evaluate ineffective assistance of counsel when A, the Law Society doesn't have any information on it, and B, I don't know anything about you, and C, I have to cooperate with you, and I feel that I should know who you are. Well, that's all confidential, and we can't reveal it, and you're required to cooperate in the investigation, and on and on and on. So I felt like I was being bullied, to tell you the truth, and I just left me with a very sour taste in my mouth. The very first time, I've always participated in the Law Society functions such as the CPD. I really like CPD. I use it a lot. I use it a lot because I have a wide area of interest, and it doesn't always match up to my practice work. I'm just interested in it. And I like to hear what people have to say, the experts in the area. I learned in law school that usually it's just 2 or 3 cases that are the law regarding most issues that we face. And I've always felt if I had a good bank of legal information, legal documents, legal papers, opinions, and stuff like that, that I would be better off as a lawyer and better off as a member of the Law Society to provide better legal services. I am not, as I say, I think if I were to be asked what issue I would want to see promoted the most, and I don't think there's any doubt about this amongst across the benchers candidates, is the preservation of the local law societies. We have I practice in Hamilton, Central South, And I have used the law societies, the local law society facilities at York in Toronto, in Kitchener, and at the Robert Welsh Courthouse in St. Catharines, and of course the HLA, the Hamilton Law Association in Hamilton. I just can't imagine how I could have entered the practice of law coming out of law school and not knowing much. They certainly didn't know how to practice. They just had this sheepskin that said, hey, you're a lawyer now, go get clients and do your thing. But I didn't know how to do it. So I had to rely on the judiciary and other lawyers that gathered at the local law association. And it was so important to me in my career. I use it now to facilitate the work that I already know how to do. They do research for me. They allow me to have a place where I can go and relax, where I can sit down and just relax, maybe even have a short nap if after a grueling morning in court or a bad night with no sleep. It's just a nice place to go. There's tables to write on. There's other lawyers to talk to. There's coffee usually. Well, in the Hamilton Law Association, there certainly is. And the facilities at 361 University and that were manned by, I can't think of the name of them. They are, they're like guardian angels. I can't think of the name of. They were people that had worked in the legal profession and were now given an opportunity to supervise the association, the facility at 361. I used to go in there and talk to Eddie Greenspan. It was great. I don't know if you know who Eddie Greenspan. You know who Eddie is? He was a wonderful man. He was very approachable. I talked to him lots of times. And I had access to him. And that's something that if I hadn't had the Law Association at York, I wouldn't have had access to that lawyer. And I wouldn't have learned from him the things that were important about what I was doing at that particular time in the criminal law. So I think that I can tie the local law associations in my practice to the actual delivery of to the quality of the legal services that I deliver. And I think any other lawyer, I think we all feel the same, unless we don't go to court. Lawyers that go to court need that local law association. I need it. I do. I was there today for I probably popped in there 3 times today to get some. The judge sent me out to get a date for a judicial pretrial, and I had to get them to show me where the new location of the trial coordinator was at Topeka Courthouse. I haven't been there for 2 years. They actually led me down the hall. They showed me right where it was. And that's a remarkable service to have. I wouldn't give that up for anything. And if somebody says, well, you don't need that, you can get along without it, it's not worth the money. I disagree. It is worth the money we pay. And the people there I just can't tell you how eager they are to help. And they're pretty good at legal research too. I've had to call them up on short notice and give them a legal proposition and ask them to inform it with case law, and they've been able to do that for me. So that would be the one thing that I would want to see preserved and funded and properly funded, so that we are able to attract people who have good knowledge of what a lawyer needs. And I don't think there's that many people around in our circle, except lawyers themselves, that know what lawyers need. Certainly what I needed when I first started and what I need now, there's a significant amount of, shall we say, concurrency between then and now, but it's changed. There's a lot has changed. We have 5 computers, a bank of 5 computers. And when I was there today, I was talking to a lawyer from St. Catharines who was up this way. So there we go. Number 2, I think I started with you there, is it this business of secrecy, not being able to get information. You know, that scares me. I'll tell you why that scares me. Because when people hold information that's generally available and they hold it secret, it must mean that there's something about it that if it went public, they wouldn't be able to substantiate it. I have no idea what that investigator at the Law Society earns. I have no idea why it took them over 2 years to take the complaint from start, and it's still going on. I had an investigator with no credentials, with no proven track record, with no ability to be able to say things to me like, listen, I've done, this guy's about 22, 23 years old, and he's sitting in judgment of me having, you know, on my ability to deliver effective legal services in a jury trial, 8 days old, and with 4 counts of sexual assault hanging over my client's head. That's not easy. That's not easy to do, because the law is it's so hard to defend anything like a sexual assault. And it's hard for me to say to him the strategy that my client and I put together to defend him. And there's non-publication orders, 3 of them, so you can't talk about it. And you know, they just don't seem to be staffed properly. I didn't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable now with it, but I have to face it. And I actually challenged this one guy at what they call a pre-hearing conference. I actually challenged him. I said, I don't think you know what you're doing. And I really did. I said, you're having secret meetings with the Crown, and you're coming back here at this conference and you're staging it like it's an original thing that you didn't have, that you haven't talked about it with the Crown before. And I know very well you have. So I complain. And these are the things that I don't like. And I think these are the things that are driving me to try and get in there and make a difference and stop this nonsense. Other things that I don't like, you know, the exchange on the money now between Canada and the United States, I think is right around 40%. Let's say it's 40%, okay? So if we purchase a service in the United States, first of all, where's the Canadian content? Don't we have anybody in Canada that can stream CPD? Why do we have to go to an American firm called Peachtree out of Georgia? I've asked, I said, who have you put this work out for bid in Canada? have you looked for Canadian content? And I said, why are you so willing to pay 40% for a service that I'm more than sure can be purchased from Canadians right in Toronto, or maybe in Vancouver, or maybe it's in Nova Scotia. Anywhere in our country, there must be some firm that can stream CPD. It's done with computers, and we all have computers, and I have an excellent computer. I'm in Canada. I purchased it. It does a great job for me. I'm sure there's people in Canada can do that work without paying a 40% bonus. And the look at the venture election itself. It is being run by not Jim Verrill, but by a firm called CompuSoft, who are an American-based outfit out of Cleveland, I believe. And not that I have anything against them, but once again, we're out there spending all this money. I'm sure that there's some firm in Canada that can run this election. And why are we paying someone to run an election when we already have people that are saying, oh, well, we run the election? I don't understand that. I ask them about it. They say, well, it was passed by a convocation. It's all secret. It's all authorized. And nothing you can do about it. And I told Jim Verrill, I says, Jim, I don't have much of a chance of being elected. But if I get elected, you and I are going to have a conversation about why you are engaging American outfits to run an election that you're supposed to staff yourself. And the second thing is they hired another firm. This is out of control. They hired another firm, and this firm is selling us the lists of lawyers that will accept, that have ticked the little box on the lawyer's report, the annual report, that they want to receive. Or they're willing to receive submissions from ventures for the job, candidates for the job of venture. So here we have, in the election itself, two firms that have been hired by Jim Verrill et al. At who knows how much money they're paying them to run an election that the Law Society should be running itself. It's just excess, 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 excess. It's like we have to stand up and say, oh, we have this firm called Peachtree in Georgia. Isn't that wonderful? Why, it is wonderful. But I'm sure there's somebody can do it in Canada without having to pay 40 points. And that's probably number 3 on my list. I don't like it. And I would move to change it. I would try to find Canadians that can do that work, instead of just saying, oh, well, here, you do it so wonderfully. Ever since I've been a little boy, we lived on the North Shore of Lake Erie, 30 miles from Detroit. And every summer, the beach was occupied, in the houses along the shore were occupied by wealthy American families. They came over to Canada and they just occupied our whole area. And I have nothing against the United States, people in the United States. We asked them to defend us, so we have to respect them. But, I think we need to watch out for ourselves, for Canada and Canadian people when we can. So I would carry those ideas forward if I were honored with the position of being a bencher at the Law Society.
Now, Winfield, Oh, sorry.
Am I doing okay?
Yeah, in fact, I just wanted to follow up, I guess, in terms of where do you see kind of the law society's role? I mean, certainly you've pointed out things of looking at maybe spending and whether it's in American companies that are providing services through the law society, or you've pointed out transparency, right, in terms of whether it's in the disciplinary process, whether it's in the salaries of members. I mean, is there anything else in terms of looking at it of the law study? What can they be doing differently? Again, you certainly bring a 30 plus years of experience there that you've maybe seen of the role of the law society in regulating our profession.
Well, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, well, could you ask me that question again, please? I didn't hear you.
I would say in terms of, you pointed out to spending, right, in terms of maybe inefficiencies, whether it's with using some of these American companies for processes that the Law Society is doing. You've pointed out at transparency issues, whether it's in the disciplinary process or staff at the Law Society. In terms of the Law Society itself as a regulator of the profession here for lawyers and paralegals, I mean, what can they be doing? What else can they be doing differently? Again, drawing on your years of experience, working as a licensee of the Law Society.
They can certainly make it easier for those that are entering, for the young lawyers, or not young. I was 47. For new lawyers entering the profession. This when I came through on the bar admission program when it was the very, very first new edition of the phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. I found that to be in some respects overbearing. I don't think we need to grind young lawyers through that process. They've already been through 3 years of law school. And to me, it just seemed like I was now articling with the City of Toronto Legal Department. And, that was one of the 7 best jobs in Toronto then. I got that by knocking on the door. I was knocking on doors looking for an articling job. The assistance I got with the Law Society was they gave me a list of paper, legal size paper with a chart on it. Here's the employer, here's what they do, here's their address, go see them. There was no assistance whatsoever. I had to go out there and knock on the doors. There was articling day at the University of Windsor, and that was the only assistance I got. And that was just, I'm a door knocker. I go and I'm a go-getter. I don't sit back and wait for things to come to me. But not everybody's like that. Not everybody can go out and find an articling position. We need help. First, we need to encourage more articling positions. We need to encourage more the availability of jobs, shall we say, articling positions. I found it to be very, very hard for me. And I wonder if it needs to be that hard. The other thing that I find is that, I'm not a very, how do you put it? I'm probably not the best person to be talking to about social issues. I've always been, nothing has ever been handed to me. I've always had to get it myself. And that doesn't mean that everybody has to have it as tough as I had. We can make it a little easier. As for the cost, I listened to a program talking about talking about trying to equate the 2-year system in England, 2 years of legal education, and before you could be, whereas we need 3. And I think I'd really have to look hard at trying to change, shaving a year off our legal education progress. The Law Society has nothing to do with that, by the way. They don't have anything to do with law schools. That's outside the Law Society. But I'm sure they have input in it. And it seems to me there's an issue coming forward to shorten the number of years that we go to law school. And I'm really, I don't know if I'm prepared to support that, if we have anything to do with it, if it matters. There was an issue about well, I guess I'd be getting off point. Have I answered your question at all?
Yeah, I feel that it's good that you're certainly talking about students, law students, articling, because the next question I have for you is certainly related to the next generation there. I mean, you certainly have many years of experience, but for any of the students that might be listening, articling or in law school still, or a paralegal college, or just maybe getting started in the profession, do you have any advice, any words of wisdom for them?
Oh, I certainly do. Number one, make as many friends as you can, because those are the people that you can go to and trust them to help you. And you get into practice. When you get into practice, one of the most important assets I have are the people that I was introduced to and I went to law school with. I still associate with them heavily. One of my friends died. I felt very bad about that. But the association of the associations, the relationships you build up when you're in law school is probably as important as the education itself. It's because I still rely on them. I did argue with them. A couple of them are angry with me, but I'd do anything for them. If they called up and asked me, I would be, yes, sir, let's go do it. And that's the way I've asked them to do for me. And I've always appreciated their very positive response. In fact, several of them nominated me for this venture election. And, I didn't have to go running around looking for, I didn't have to be grandfathered. I had people that were willing to support me. They knew of my quality. They went right through law school with me. So that's number one. Number two is I think the most important thing is to get an area of interest in the law, an area that you can, when you're choosing your courses, to pick an area that you are interested in and follow up on that. Mine was municipal law. And I followed up on that, and I got a job with the city of Toronto, legal department. That's, and they were paying me $35,000 a year. That was 30 years ago. And I had a wife and 2 children. And I'll tell you something, that was great. That was excellent. My wife didn't have to work so hard. 3 children. She's right here with me. I've been married to this girl for 50 years, and it's been a wonderful experience. And she rode the law school experience with us. We had a house that was not too far from the university. It was always full of children, always full of law students. And that was when Star Wars came out. And I can still remember Tom Chow and acting out various roles that he was he was entertaining my kids. He was a superstar. And those are the people, the people that I met. And to get to the course selection, I don't do municipal law now. I do criminal law. I've done criminal law from the day one. I knew I was going to do that. And I took every criminal course I could in the university. But I took other courses too, like maritime law, the law of the sea, that type of thing. I've never had a case in it since I've been. It was very extremely interesting. And I tried to use my time in law school because I knew for myself and others that there was a contingent of people that never came to school. You saw them at exam time. They showed up to write exams. And the other contingent of people were those that were, academically proficient. I was not. Not at all. I did not know what I was doing in law school. I couldn't figure it out. And I had to work. I had to work every weekend driving trucks from Windsor to Oshawa 3 times every weekend, 3 trips to Oshawa, and so 2 or 3 shifts during the week. I'm not bemoaning that. I loved it. Okay. It took my mind off the horror of law school. I did not know what I was doing. I had no idea. And I tried to learn. He said, don't worry about it. Just get that sheepskin. Just get your LLB. Do that. You don't have to be number 1 on the list. But some of my friends were in the first 6 students of the school. And they are very, very intelligent people, and they're great lawyers. Absolutely great. And go to them. To have that kind of expertise available to me, just to pick up the phone and call them is absolutely amazing. I wouldn't give it up for anything, because I didn't know what was going on in law school. I had to work, and so there must be some students like me somewhere. The idea is to get done. Nobody has ever asked me what my position was on the roster of about 1 to 103, I guess it was at that time. Where did I rank? Nobody's ever asked me. Nobody. Never have I been asked that. Most people are just interested. Oh, you went to Windsor. That's a access to justice law school. And it certainly is. It was great. It was great. One of the greatest experience of my life, just for the horror story, just to go through it and succeed.
Now Winfield, last question.
How am I doing?
Last question here for you. Final one. For anyone that has a vote in the upcoming election, why should they cast a vote in your favor?
Well, why not? I haven't seen any reason why not. I'm going to try and do the best I can with the things that we have to grapple with. Probably things I won't know about until I learn of them. But it's the approach, I talk around. I find out what's going on. I rely on people to assist me and to give me the direction. And then I take it and I try to find the thing that's in the mid that's causing it, the supporting case law, shall we say, and go from there. I don't wander around trying to deal with useless issues. I don't waste my time with that. I go out and I find out what I need to get a result for my client, and by that time, if I get fortunate enough to be elected, the World of Law Society will be my client. That's the way I'll look at it. I don't want to do any harm. I would never intentionally do any harm. And I'll always try to vote for the best individual thing. I'll find out what needs to be done, and I'll do it. It's that simple. But I can't tell you right now what I'll be grappling with. I just have to be a part of the group and hear what others have to say and say what I have to say and see if we can come to an agreement. I don't know of any other way. Bickering I associate with incivility in the courtroom. I don't like it. I'm probably responsible for some of it because of my aggressive nature. But I never ever get up in the morning and say, okay, today's the day I'm going to hurt somebody. That just doesn't happen. I don't do that. I don't think like that. It doesn't. My wife doesn't think like that. She's with me, my partner. And if you look on the back wall, you see an OPP officer on a motorcycle. That's my father. He was down here in Niagara. He escorted the Queen when they opened the Queen Elizabeth Way. And he had to buy his own motorcycle as an OPP officer cadet. So, I mean, he didn't know what he was doing. And, you know, I have no idea what I'm going to meet. But what I do meet, if I meet it, it will be done with integrity, and it will never be with the intention of hurting someone. It will always be to try to find the common good and go with that. The Law Society is responsible for the regulation, self-regulation of, I don't know, 30,000 lawyers in Ontario. And they have a very large budget. I've already talked about how I think the budget could be used better. But they need to keep going. We need to continue self-regulation. We don't need to be going to have the court decide whether a lawyer needs to be disciplined or not, or whether a Law Society medal should be awarded or not, or whether there should be a law association or not. Those are things that we have the gift of being able to regulate ourselves. And of course, we have the Law Foundation, that big chunk of money that sits there, and I don't know what they do with that. I certainly would like to know. But I think that probably from my conscience, I think I've answered your question fairly.
Thanks so much, Winfield, here for taking the time and speaking with us. And thanks for everyone for watching. Take care and all the best.
Yes, thank you very much for asking me. It's been a pleasure.